Hello, Raga.
Hi, Dylan. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I can hear and see you, and I trust you can hear and see me. So, always a great start. And welcome back, everybody, to all of you joining us from around the globe. Thank you so much for being here at Equality Leaders LGBTQ Plus Summit. It really is my absolute pleasure to be in conversation with author, entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and LGBTQ plus advocate here this morning, Raga D'silva. Raga is going to be sharing with us her deeply personal coming out story, taking her chance at the age of 50 to shed her fears and live her truth. So, Raga, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to introduce yourself and then we can dive straight in?
So I'll say namaste to everyone because I am in India right now. And Dylan, what a pleasure to be here. And in the audience watching, we must say that we didn't plan this color coordination. Dylan
Yeah,
and I,
that's true.
he did not send me any memo. And we are naturally, I think, in sync. And I just was so happy to see this beautiful, bright smile and the colors on the screen. So, hey, see the colors match. So, thank you very much, Dylan and Minakshi and everyone for including me in your session. And just as Dylan has introduced me, and there is so much more I think we can talk about. Would you like me to share my story just as context?
Yeah, I guess, my first question to you really is, could you share a little bit of your story and describe to us what it was like growing up in Bombay? How did it feel knowing that deep down you were somehow different to the other kids?
Interestingly, we talk when you talk about Bombay, and I'm currently in Bombay, the city where I was born, and here after 2.5 years, so it feels fantastic. And I've been eating a lot of mangoes, the original Alfonso mangoes. Now, while I make light of my life, I must tell you that it hasn't always been so fun. But I think I always looked at my life from a third person point of view. In fact, Dylan, my book, The Untold Lies, that I published, also someone asked me why is it written in third person, because I think although it's been a long time since these dramatic events happened in my life, but I feel that I still find it very hard to separate myself, so I detached from the experience, and therefore I try and say it as if it's never happened to me. So please, if I share the story and you feel it is not my story, it is a third person story, please bear with me. It is authentically mine. So I grew up in Bombay. I was raised in a predominantly Hindu country, as you know, but I was raised a Catholic, and we are the minority in India. So I was brought up in a very traditional but liberal at the same time, very conservative family, Catholic family, where my mother actually wore saris, where most of the Catholics in India don't really wear. They're more Western, but we were more traditional. We came from an academic background, and what do you call education was important to us. But my father passed away when I was 6 years old. So, which meant that my mother had to raise three children on her own at a time when times were very difficult. So, we ended up growing up in the slums of Mumbai. And if anybody has watched Slumdog Millionaire, you'll get an idea of that life was very difficult for me. I mean, I used to go to school without having proper school uniform or shoes to wear, but I have come a long way. The universe has been kind. But in my life, I always felt a misfit. I knew something was different about me, but I always thought maybe it was my background because I hid. I always hid because I thought my parents came from such humble backgrounds. To be accepted even at school, I had to pretend that I came from this affluent background. So I think I always lived that dual life. I got used to it. So when I grew older and I was in my early 20s, I met a young woman and we fell in love in India. But at that time, there was no representation, Dylan, about this whole community. I'm talking about going back to the early 90s. The word gay did not exist. The word lesbian, nobody even knew. I mean, I think people would have struggled to understand what that meant. So for us, LGBT there was no vocabulary for us at that time. And if I said to anyone I was gay or I felt gay, they would think that, oh, maybe you're feeling very happy today. And I also feel gay today. That would be their response. But that was a bit sad, because I wish I had known that I felt, attracted to women at that time, and I wish I knew that it could mean that I could be with a woman. So we couldn't. So I got married when I was 25. I got married to my best friend, a man. We have twins from that marriage. We raised our kids for a little while, and then we went to New Zealand, from Bombay to New Zealand. I lived in this beautiful place, had a fantastic job. My life was a fairy tale life. One large house, immigrant life, which we had kind of created for ourselves. Three cars, two little kids, son and a daughter, fairy tale life. Marriage wasn't working out. So I was separating from my marriage. During that time, I decided to write to a friend of mine, who was a very dear friend of mine, and share my story, share my feelings. I said, Ravi and I are separating, but I think that there's been something, a part of me which was very hidden. It is that I really like women. I'm going to explore that part. And I left that letter in my closet in the house. And my mother, dear, dear mother, who was visiting from Bombay, found that letter. And just, if you can shut your eyes and just listen to this, because this happened one late night when I was putting my kids to bed. It was about 7:30 at night. The room was completely dark, and I was singing, as you do something, sometimes sing a lullaby, and all I could smell is someone. I could actually smell someone. When you say smell, because I think there's a smell of anger. I now understand what the smell of anger is, and I think I countered that smell of anger with my smell of fear. When fear and anger meet, it's a very powerful feeling. And I opened my eyes. I thought there was an intruder. All I could see was this shiny, shiny blade, and I screamed. And it was my mother who had it was I still have a mark here. She was trying to plunge a knife into me. I couldn't understand, and then she said that I have read your letter, and she started screaming. She was cursing me. She was talking about bringing shame to the family, causing her humiliation, causing her embarrassment. In India, we have this phrase that we say, "Log kya kahenge," which means what will people say. So she kept referring to this people, this society. What will happen to your children? What are you going to do? What is going to happen to our family? And that just continued all night. Somehow my ex-husband, who was in the other room, pacified her. It was news to him. While he had a hint, it was news to him as well. So there was this big drama for many, many, many days. I hid. I felt very, I mean, you can imagine the trauma. My own mother rejected me. She chose to go back to Mumbai the next day. We got her tickets to go to Mumbai. She did not speak to me for at least 2.5 years after that. I mean, there was no communication. She wouldn't take my calls. She refused to talk. My entire family suddenly ostracized me. I just had no family left other than my two children, who were in a state of confusion. Our friends in New Zealand also, just basically, they just separated us themselves from us. So it was at that time that I decided, I said to myself, listen, I have to explore, because I felt that if I did not follow my heart, I wouldn't be happy. And I don't think that it's very uh, you know if that it makes any sense, very fair to a woman not to be happy, because it's unfair to the children that you're bringing up. An unhappy parent is an unhappy child. And so I chose to do that, but it came with a lot of brickbats. There was a lot of abuse, sadly, from my Indian community in New Zealand. It was really sad to see that. I have been spat at, I have been kicked in my stomach. My house has been broken into, my car windows were broken into. There were words lesbian written all over my car. And really, at a time when I didn't know either. I was so confused, Dylan, at that time. I didn't know. And I'm sorry I'm adding this, because people think that it was an overnight decision. They think one day you're married, the next day you decide you're going to be a lesbian, and third day you live that life. It's a long process. It's a long process of self acceptance. It's a process of guilt. There's confusion. There is dilemma. There is unhappiness within, because you don't know. You're trying to please everybody. You're the last person we think about is ourselves. It's everybody else we have to look after. And in doing that, you just kill yourself, really. The mental health issues I had a fantastic job. But I also saw a lot of passive homophobia in my workplace. While in New Zealand there were laws against discrimination of any kind, but people are people. People treat you poorly. It's suddenly, the person who was receiving a lot of, I used to receive a lot of awards and accolades. Media used to write about me all the time because I was good at what I did, from advertising. But suddenly everything became a pain. It's like people would whisper, there would be banter around. I stopped getting invitations or invites to our social parties. My children stopped getting invites to sleepovers. It was just, I mean, the babysitters wouldn't look after the children. It was just it's almost like the entire world has decided this woman is not normal, so we cannot take her into our homes or into our lives. Now this is 20 years ago.
Mm.
So that is the background.
Raga, thank you so much. Deeply grateful, as I know everyone else just listening to you today. Thank you for sharing that story, and so much of that resonates or will resonate with people in different ways on different levels. And I think, it's a journey, as you say, right? It's not just one day you're this, next day you're that, and that's that. It really is a journey, and a journey of self-awareness, and unpicking, unraveling all of that, those years and years of conditioning, of the shame, and that internalized homophobia, right? That as queer people we can absolutely relate on, right? So I guess my question then to you is, what would you then say to your younger self, knowing now what you know, and living your truth?
I think I've thought about this a lot. Whilst I wouldn't change a lot of aspects about my life, because I'm very grateful. I have to remember to be grateful to everything and everyone and the experiences I've had and the privileges that I've had. But Dylan, I really wish that I had not really worried about the lobe, the people, the society. It's taken me 20 odd years to realize that actually this peopling, this othering that we do, and I'm sorry I'm pointing this out to all of us like that, my fingers, we do a lot of othering, and that is
Mm,
what society conditions us to believe. There is no others. We are the society. I am that society, I am that log. And if individually each one of us makes the change within ourselves first, we stand strong with who we are, and we
mm,
have the courage to live our lives with authenticity and with truth. I think we are that society, and we'll change the society too. So to my younger self, I would say to my younger self, stay strong. The world is not going to kick you, really. You just stay strong and you just live your life, because now I live my truth and nobody has spat on
mm,
me or abused me. In fact, they celebrate me now.
mm,
So why wouldn't they have celebrated me? Maybe partly, Dylan, maybe I was so weak. And when you're weak, people just kick you down. That's a sad part of life.
mm,
So maybe partly it was who I was at that time.
mm,
Now I feel so my if I was 15, 16, 20, 25, 30, I would say live your truth, because closets are for clothes, not to hide your truth.
mm. Absolutely. And, I think this was a point that came up in our panel just before our conversation, Raga, and that spoke to safety, right? So, as much as, there are people out there who do want to live their truth, it's just simply not safe enough for them to do. So, it's complex, right? It's not. Um, yeah, there's so many different layers at this, and of course not everyone has that opportunity or that access to safe spaces, and not necessarily even have the resources to find safe spaces. And this kind of leads very nicely into my next question. Many within the LGBTQ plus community consider coming out almost as a rite of passage, right? It's something that you have to do to live loudly, proudly, be welcomed into the community with open arms. But as we've just noted, we also need to acknowledge and recognize that this narrative in many ways can actually be inherently exclusionary, because not everybody is safe to come out. Not everybody wants to come out, and that's okay. So perhaps you could share with us your experience of um, that, of you coming out and balancing that with those safety concerns. You've shared with
Sure.
us the abuse that you endured, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you rightly said, Dylan, it's safe, the word safe. In fact, when I speak with a lot of corporates around India globally, one of the things that I always say is that we have great places to work and best places to work as a concept. Why do you not have a safe place to work? Why don't you reward companies for making a safe place to work and have a pure category in that? Because we need to create a safe place for us at home, at work, at every level possible. And we have, as I say, there are many pillars to feeling safe. You can't just feel safe in your home, but imagine if you're outside your little home, everybody's homophobic, so it is so unsafe. People have often asked me, Dylan, why do you have to make this big loud noise about coming out? Why do you have to now suddenly go and do a TEDx talk on coming out at 50? I have a talk called out, 50 and out. And I talk about this quite a bit. And I think it's a huge privilege. It's my privilege that I have had the luxury of coming
Mm,
out and sharing my story. As you rightly said, it is not safe for everyone. And that is my point, that
mm,
I had to wait until I was 50 to feel strong enough, safe enough to even consider talking about my story.
mm,
To date, I have to give you two instances that that night from what my mom tried to do to me. To date, if I'm alone, where I travel quite a bit, if I'm alone, I'm not able to sleep without the lights being turned off. A lot of people have said to me, do therapy, you'll be fine. Oh, therapy is not a button. It's not a switch that you can just turn on and off. It takes years and years of healing. To date, I cannot. And to date, now I'm in Mumbai. I'm not even in New Zealand. Today, I'm in Mumbai. I always walk with watching over my shoulders. I'm
mm,
always looking for someone to come and slap me or say something to me, spit at me, because I've experienced that.
mm,
And that is not something that we can change. So coming out, why do we have to come out? Why do we have to express our coming out? Why do we have to express ourselves in a certain manner?
mm,
People ask, they say to me, someone said to me, I was at the film festival, Queer Film Festival. Someone came up to me and said, you dress up so beautifully, but it's quite outlandish. I was wearing a half sari. And I said, is that how the LGBTQ, your queer community, why do they dress up so outlandishly?
mm,
And I said, what is outlandish? I said, we just express ourselves. We just are people. I mean, I'm so pleased that I'm not a straight woman, actually. I couldn't express myself in whether through words or through my, the clothes I wore. So for me, coming out is a privilege, and this is the only way we can change the narrative. Your
mm,
story, my story, stories. I'm Pips is here. I can see stories like that are very important for us to change the narrative. So yes, we have to shout out for now until we don't. I mean, hopefully one day we don't have to come out. I did an
abs-
acceptance. Yeah, Dylan, I was at a party, a friend hosted a party for us the other night, and I did an acceptance speech. And then I suddenly stopped myself. I said, thank you for accepting me. And just as I said it, I said, no, actually, I don't want to thank you for accepting me.
mm,
Why should I have to patronize myself to feel accepted by you? We should not have to say that to each other. I mean, why can't we just be in a world where we all live our true selves and without having to say, Dylan, I accept you for your sexuality? What does that
mm,
even mean?
mm,
But I guess people like us are going to make the change slowly.
absolutely. And it's about navigating our everyday, right? In whatever spaces we find ourselves in, it really is about navigating those in safe ways. And it's a challenge, Sometimes you police yourself, don't you? In the clothes you choose to wear, or the ways in which you express yourself, your body language, etc., etc. And again, as much as we're lucky enough, I guess, for the lack of a phrase, to live in a city like London, right? Which is, it's one of those world capitals, right, where there is freedom, etc. But at the same time, there are still those spaces where you don't feel comfortable or safe at all, and that's just a reality that LGBTQ people have to face every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're saying that London is safe, should be safe, right? It's a beautiful city. We have laws, we have policies in place. But hey, I don't feel safe. I'm sorry. Even in London, I've been assaulted. I've been called names in London. I've said, "Hey, lesbian," and I am scared of aggression,
Mm,
aggressive, aggressive people. Uh, I'm fearful of them. So I live in fear. Although I outwardly look like I'm very fine and cool, I am very fearful
yeah.
because I cannot. In London also, I cannot count the number of times I have been assaulted nearly. I mean, my
Mm,
partner and I have been assaulted. And you think that is there homophobia behind that? It's not that we hold hands. It's just by the way we present ourselves, maybe people,
mm,
I don't know, I think strangers have got the license these days, whether it's through online trolling
mm,
or through, just walking around next to you and they feel that they have the permission and the license to hurl abuses at you.
mm,
That needs to stop.
yeah.
And there are two ways of doing it. One is by fighting for it, or one is by doing it with love. And no matter what, Dylan, I'm refusing to fight it with the battle that people want to fight. I want to spread love.
Mm,
Someone said something to me at the Queer Film Festival. I just went and gave them a big tight hug. And I said, I love you so much. I really love you so much. In that 2 seconds, they said, you know what? I love you too. I'm really sorry if I offended you.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful because they don't expect that, do they?
No,
There's those people, especially trolls, for example. They're looking for that engagement, that fight. That's what they're after. And as soon as you just return love and openness, they don't know what to do with it, do they?
yeah.
It kind of just
There's
diffuses. It takes all their power away, almost.
exactly. And I think that whilst it takes their power away when you're not engaging with them in the manner that they want you to engage, it I think it also there's a lot of power in love.
Mm,
And it's very sad that we have to sometimes put ourselves in a situation where we can't express our love, because really our community is so full of love.
mm,
I ask people, when people, like in Bombay, I've been, like I said to you, I've been amongst thousands of people now because of the talks I've been doing at the Queer Film Festival as well. And I tell them, look, this is my partner. Why, how can you not love us, really? What is it about that bothers you that you want to take your footwear and throw it at people like us? I said,
mm,
this is a community. We're just beautiful people. We just are talented, skilled. We live our lives. We have the same issues you have. So why would you say that, oh, I am normal? So sorry, excuse me. So what makes me not normal in
mm,
your definition?
mm.
Love is powerful. I really believe in that.
No, thank you, and that's such an important message to share with everybody, Raga. I actually just want to read out a comment that we've received in the chat
Sure.
from Ritika Wadwa, and Ritika says, "Hearing your story, Raga, leaves me speechless every time. Thank you for sharing and living your truth in spite of it being the harder way. I am honored to know you and have your impact in my life. You do you, and that's more than enough."
I'm so sorry.
No,
I might
that's
have
okay.
hurt you.
So
Ritika, thank you so much. I'm trying very hard to detach myself, because when people say such things, I find it very hard to control. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
that's okay. Don't worry.
To control my emotion, because it's been a hard journey, and it is something that I don't wish on anybody. Whatever I've shared today is just 1% of what I've been through,
Mm,
and it leaves its mark on you. And then through all that, you have to somehow live a life, and I feel that I have lived a double life, and I feel that
mm,
feels uncomfortable for me even now, because I've lived a life where outwardly, and I know a lot of people, Dylan, from our community, who live exactly the life that I live, because outwardly we show positive,
mhm,
happy things, and then we show, then we have the second life, which is a real life, which where we struggle, we cry into the pillow every night, we don't want to get out of our homes. I've been
mm,
through so much of that that at times I have wanted to end it all. And I think sadly, now I look back and said I attempted at least 5 times in my life to end it all. And if it
mm,
wasn't for my children, I wouldn't have been here.
mm.
So I think that if the world can change and include us, and we just accepting, loving, kind, respectful, compassionate. I mean, these are values we talk about, right? And how difficult is it really?
Yeah. And there are values that we speak of, but they're not empty, hollow words,
Yes.
not to so many of us and others around it. They have
Yes.
real world implications, right? And so we only have a few moments left. And so I guess I wanted to kind of ask you, Raga, about belonging and that need for connection, that community that we've spoken about, right? So it's to belong really is a basic human need that we all have, right? It's an intense force. So, my question to you is, what does it mean to you to belong? And do you remember the first time when you felt as though you belonged, not just in your own skin, but as a part of a community?
Dylan, I came out 2.5 years ago when I wrote my book Untold Lies. When I say when I came out, I have been out, but publicly came out. I never talked about it. My partner and I raised our children quite in hiding. Nobody ever asked us if we were together. We never had to talk about it. So we just kind of stayed in hiding. But I came out 2.5 years ago. And when I came out, just 3 months after me coming out, that we had the pandemic. So it's my first trip outside of London to India. When I walked onto that stage 4 days ago at the Kashish Square Film Festival with 1,200 people from our community sitting there, allies as well sitting there, powerful people from our community, iconic people from our community whose voices have been heard for decades. When I got on stage and I was hosting a very large panel. I heard the claps, I heard the sound. Say I have goosebumps, Dylan. I felt that I belonged. That word I used earlier, misfit, I felt like a misfit from a very, very young age. At 52, standing on that stage with 1,200 people from our community, I suddenly, finally felt I had reached home. I
Mhm,
belong. I belong. I belong. I belong. I have a larger family. I don't have a small family. I have a chosen soul family, not just in India, around the world. And we all belong to each other, with each other, for each other.
mhm.
Dylan, it's a powerful feeling.
I love that, Raga. That feeling of coming home, right? Being home. You can just lay everything down and just be you and show up as you, and you're loved for that. And yeah, nothing more empowering and just wonderful, euphoric
It
in some
is. It
ways.
is. And you
Yeah.
think, why was this not handed over earlier? Why
Mm,
did I not accept the love? Why did I let this not come my way? And I think now my role is to make sure that those who want this, that we do this for them. We make them feel that they belong, that we belong together. That's what I meant. That we all belong. We belong. This is our family. And I'm
mm.
here, and I know we have a large family around the world, and we all belong with each other, in each other, for each other.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have just 1 minute left, and I guess I'd like to ask you, Raga, is there any reflection or thought that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, Mahatma Gandhi had said that be the change you want to see in the world. I have kind of altered this a bit, and I've said that be the love you
Mm,
want to see in the world. It's very simple. We don't start with anybody else, we start with us. I am happy to be the love I want to see in the world. There is no hatred. I don't feel hatred. I don't have the baggage that I have carried. It lifts with me through pain, because rejection is very painful,
mm,
acceptance is beautiful.
mm,
And so therefore I say, be the love. Let's be the love we want to see.
mm,
Let's learn what respect means. And next time you see me anywhere in London, please don't come and spit on me. Come and give me a hug. That's all I ask for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's thank you, Dylan. You have been wonderful. I love
Thank you.
you, and you're
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you so much, Raga, for spending these moments with us and sharing your story. Really, really appreciate it. And yes, that brings us to the end of our conversation. And actually, we have our next panelists waiting behind stage. So I will say goodbye to you, Raga, and we'll chat soon again.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. All the best.
Bye bye.